So, let's talk about nasty zombies. And yes, that is a very funny name. And yes, it is derivative of Nazi zombies, just like the game itself. Upon first glance, it's a pretty unassuming boomer shooter, but it's meant to be reminiscent of the early days of World at War zombies from, Call of Duty. This is actually a pretty interesting concept, as a lot of players find the newer zombies entries to be way too complicated and way too fast-paced. And while I don't necessarily agree with that, they are objectively more complicated and more fast-paced. It's just debatable whether or not that's actually a problem. So as a game that's reminiscent of older zombies titles, it's a lot slower paced and plays very similarly to the older games. Only it's kind of modernized retro, if that makes sense. So the basic gameplay loop is pretty much the same as Nacht der Untoten from World at War. Zombies will flood in, you have to kill them and repair the barriers, open up doors, buy guns off the wall, stuff like that. But there are some changes. First of all, you're able to go outside the building, which is strange. You were never able to do that in COD. The barriers were about chest high, so you could never really get out. Points are acquired the same way as always, damaging zombies, only it's the Cold War point system where you only get points for kills rather than damage. Points actually take a lot longer to accrue than in previous games, though. Every kill awards the player about 25 cents or pence. It's this symbol. I think that's pounds. I don't know. I'm American. I'm sorry. 25 cents. That's like equivalent to 25 points in World at War. That's really not a lot, especially considering the second cheapest wall weapon is 10 pounds, which is a lot. Essentially, the point system hasn't adjusted for inflation. Power-ups are also a major part of this game, like they are in Call of Duty, only they work significantly different. Gameplay-wise, they work exactly the same. A zombie has a chance to drop one, and you pick it up, and it gives you a power-up, like nuke, max ammo, stuff like that. Out of game, however, they act as a facet of the progression system. The progression system is odd. The power-ups aren't all put into the map by default. You have to purchase them out of game for them to appear in your matches. The same also goes for perks. Perks are no longer on the maps. They are things that you purchase prior and equip before getting into a match, and then you have it the entirety of that match. When you buy a perk or a power-up, it's permanently unlocked, but everything else gets a little more expensive. It's kind of like the Cold War perk system in that regard. While I'm not at the analysis portion of the review yet, I do want to express how strange and how much of a bad idea I think this progression system is. The power-ups I don't really mind, but the perks are a strange choice to me, because it's taking a system that by no means was broken in the slightest and changes it and makes it more restrictive and less gameplay focused. It's at the very least a really awkward decision. Before we get to general gameplay, I do want to go over a few smaller gameplay mechanics. There's a customizable player character, modifiers such as, big head mode, stuff like that. One where you can't go through the barriers to get outside of the map. I always have that equipped because I'm a nerd. Also, these levers around the map that, for the life of me, I cannot figure out what they do. It looks like they're timed to pull them. You have to pull all 5 of them within a certain amount of time, and I just cannot do it. I am incapable. I do not know what my problem is, but by the time I flip the last one, the first one's already flipped back up. So maybe it's a completely game-changing mechanic, whatever they unlock. Feel free to grill me in the comments about that if that's the case, but I cannot figure out what they do. So when it comes to the actual gameplay itself, it's pretty enjoyable. Let's start off with the gunplay. The guns themselves are very satisfying. There aren't that many, so they can't really blend together. Each one serves its own specific purpose. Like the Enfield No. 2 revolver is meant to be your starting gun, basically. The Sten is the cheaper alternative to the Thompson. The Lee Enfield is the headshot machine, basically. And then the Winchester shotguns are the super shotgun. The minigun is a minigun. The gunplay is a lot of fun. The guns are pretty satisfying to use. They each serve their own purpose. And then you get to the movement, and the movement is also enjoyable. The maps are very clearly designed around juking zombies and training, more specifically. You didn't really see a lot of that in the older zombies games because training wasn't really a thing. High rounds during the days of World at War were like 20, 15 even. I'm pretty sure Treyarch's record for Nocturne Toten was like 18. So the maps were a lot, more close quarters, like stuff like Verrupt. But this game has hindsight in mind and is designed with larger areas to lead zombies through and find advantageous positions to mag dump in. And it's pretty enjoyable. Overall, I think it's a more or less flawed experience, but not a bad one. I think a lot of the changes were made purely for the sake of change rather than improving on the old system. But the game itself is pretty fun, and as a $7 callback to the glory days of zombies, I don't see a reason to not pick it up. Thank you for watching my review of Nasty Zombies. This is my second video essay in collaboration with Save Point Gaming, and I hope you guys are enjoying this so far. See ya.